There are places on Earth that were never meant for people. Places where, day after day, nature never stops trying to take life away. Ice and snow bury an entire town in isolation. Scorching heat forces an entire city to hide deep underground. And every wave decides whether a fishing trip has any chance of making it back. Even so, despite danger lurking everywhere, people have found the craziest ways to adapt. Today's journey will take you to the harshest places on Earth, where every single day of survival is a victory. The further we go, the more you'll find yourself asking, if people can still live in places like these, then what really counts as the limit? In the town of Ittoqqortoormiit, ice is everywhere. Thick sheets of ice cover the ground. Massive icebergs drift through the fjord. The largest ones can be as tall as a building. Winter here lasts for more than half the year. Snowstorms sweep through regularly. Temperatures drop below -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite the brutally harsh weather, around 325 people still live in Ittoqqortoormiit year-round. Farming and raising livestock are almost impossible. Every basic necessity depends on the few supply deliveries that make it through. During winter, the entire community is cut off by ice. You can only travel inconveniently by dog sled. Even seeing sunlight becomes a rare thing for weeks at a time. A small shack stands alone in the middle of the vast sea. It is supported by only a single wooden pole, driven deep into the sea floor. The coastal waters off Rajgok lie about 12 nautical miles from the mainland. This is where fishermen stay for an entire week, waiting for the tides to make a living. When the tide changes, the offshore stake net fishing begins. The men carefully make their way along thin ropes. They lean far over the water to pull up one giant net after another. Then the entire catch is hauled onto the boat. Every step of the job is done without any protective equipment. One small mistake is all it takes for the open sea to swallow everything. But for these resilient fishermen, that is simply part of everyday life. Once the work is done, they return to their fragile shack. Every part of daily life takes place inside its cramped space, all while the waves below threaten every meal and every sleep. The Danakil Depression is so harsh that scientists have used it to simulate the surface of Mars. Bright yellow, orange, and green acid pools are scattered everywhere. The ground is cracked, as if it has just been melted. Toxic gases and hot steam constantly burst from deep cracks in the earth. Hydrothermal vents burn with roaring flames. Danakil is considered one of the hottest places on Earth. Daytime temperatures here often rise above 122 degrees Fahrenheit. There are no trees, no shade, no fresh water, and no place for life. Even so, the Afar people still enter this land. They cut blocks of salt from the scorching ground by hand using simple tools. Every day, long camel caravans loaded with heavy blocks of salt quietly cross the desert. At Loktak Lake, homes are not built on solid ground, but on floating islands. These lush green circles are called Phumdis. They are formed from plants, roots, soil, and layers of organic matter that have built up over many years. Thousands of Phumdis of every size have turned the lake into a floating maze. Simple houses stand on top of them. They are single-story wooden homes with thatched roofs. For generations, the lives of the people here have depended almost entirely on the water. They travel by small wooden boats. And they catch fish right beneath the surface of the lake. The water level and the size of Loktak Lake are constantly changing. Their homes rise and fall with every ripple. At any moment, people could lose the place they call home. The Maasai people live on the dry, sun-scorched land of Africa's semi-arid region. Everywhere you look, there are thorny bushes and dry grass. And one deadly threat: predators. Even in this land, the Maasai continue their semi-nomadic way of life. They build maniatas from branches, mud, and cow dung. The thick walls help keep the inside cool under the blazing sun. Cattle, goats, and sheep are kept right beside their homes. They are the most valuable possessions a family can have. But beyond the fence, predators wait day and night. One moment of carelessness is enough for them to wipe out a family's entire livelihood. Even so, the Maasai choose to stay and face the danger. They wear bright red shukas to scare away wild animals. To get extra nutrition, they drink milk mixed with fresh blood, taken directly from the neck of a cow. The Adamu dance is performed as a way of showing human strength in the heart of the wild. Sitting at nearly 13,000 feet in the Himalayas, Dolpa is one of the highest livestock raising communities in Nepal. All that surrounds it are barren rocky slopes, sparse grasslands, and thin air. When winter arrives, snow covers everything. With very little farmland, the people depend almost entirely on herds of yaks, sheep, and goats for survival. They constantly move with their animals in search of new grazing land. High on the mountain slopes, they set up simple tents for shelter. Then the rainy season arrives. The ground turns into slippery mud. Every tarp, piece of fabric, and sheet of plastic is used to shield themselves from the freezing mountain winds. The rain can last for days. People survive only on the food they have brought with them. Despite every challenge nature throws at them, the people of Dolpa have continued to hold on to this land for generations. In the middle of crystal-clear blue water, tiny wooden houses seem to float on the sea. This is the sea nomad way of life that the Badjao people have lived for generations. Wooden posts are driven deep into the sea. On top sit simple thatched roofs. They serve as both homes and workplaces right beside the fishing grounds. Every morning, wooden boats slowly head out to sea. The people regularly dive to the seafloor to catch fish, octopus, and sea cucumbers. But behind this peaceful scene lies a life full of challenges. Many Badjao villages are packed with houses standing shoulder to shoulder. When the tide goes out, thousands of wooden posts, black mud, and household waste are left exposed. Every trip from place to place happens on shaky wooden walkways. Small boats move through the dark water below. Entire families live inside cramped houses. Because of the high population density, life here is extremely difficult. Even fresh water has to be collected from rain or brought in from outside. If it were you, how many days could you live here? Misfah al Abriyyin sits in the middle of Oman's barren Rocky Mountains. From a distance, it looks like the ruins of an ancient fortress clinging to a cliff. Few people realize those brown walls are actually a village that has been inhabited for hundreds of years. To get inside, you have to pass through narrow pathways, steep stone stairways, towering walls on both sides. Inside the village, every house is built from stone and clay. The thick walls keep the interiors cool. Rocky mountains surround the entire area. There is hardly a single tree in sight. But the surprising part is that lush terraced fields filled with fruit trees appear inside the village. The secret lies in the Village system, which has carried water from mountain springs to the gardens for more than 2,000 years. This is how people challenge nature in places where nature never intended them to survive. Thousands of nearly identical red wooden houses are packed tightly across the mountainside. They cover the Tibetan plateau like a maze with no way out. This is Larung, isolated at nearly 12,500 feet above sea level. This Buddhist academy was built to give monks, nuns, and Buddhist followers a peaceful place to practice their faith. At its center stands the main temple complex with its striking golden roofs. The scent of incense drifts through the steep pathways in the thin mountain air. Pilgrims continue to arrive without end. They quietly spin prayer wheels as they pray, At night, thousands of windows glow with light. The entire valley seems to disappear into a mysterious world. The question is, if you came here, are you sure you could find your way without ever getting lost? Your car is driving across a barren landscape. Red dust stretches all the way to the horizon. There is barely another person in sight. But beneath your feet, an entire underground city is alive. To escape the scorching heat, the people of Coober Pedy dug out living spaces beneath the ground. Underground hotels, the Old Timers Mine, a museum showcasing the history of underground opal mining. Churches, bars, homes, everything is underground. The living spaces are carved deep into the rock. The walls and ceilings still keep their rough, natural color. The temperature inside stays much cooler than outside, but for anyone who fears enclosed spaces, living in this town is an extreme challenge. From a distance, Tai O looks like a small strip of houses sitting on an island between the sea and the mountains. But as you get closer, you'll realize that most of these houses were never built on land. They stand on hundreds of wooden stilts driven deep into the mud at the river mouth. Houses line both sides of the narrow channels. They are connected by wooden bridges. Fishing boats pass right beneath the homes. For more than 300 years, the people here have made a living through fishing and aquaculture. Fresh catches are sold at markets throughout the village. Every day, the water in the channels changes from hour to hour. Sometimes it is crystal clear. Other times it turns cloudy. And when the tide goes out, the muddy bottom is exposed, making every boat's journey a challenge. In the middle of the South Pacific, Pitcairn Island appears as a lonely green dot. There is no airport or deep water port. To get here, you have to spend hours crossing the ocean by boat from Mangareva Island, then transfer to a small boat for the final trip. Pitcairn is actually an extinct volcano. steep cliffs surround the island. There are no natural beaches. About 40 people live on the island. Most are believed to be descendants of the sailors from HMS Bounty in the late 18th century. Life on the island depends on the few supply ships that arrive each year. To survive, the residents grow bananas, papayas, potatoes, and vegetables while also fishing. Most of their income comes from Pitcairn's famous honey, collectible stamps, and souvenirs. A very small number of tourists still cross the ocean to visit one of the most isolated communities on Earth. The Tai O Villages sit along the slopes of the mountain. From a distance, the landscape looks peaceful, with rooftops and green vegetable fields. But right behind them stands a highly active volcano. Thick white plumes of smoke rise continuously. After nearly 400 years of silence, Mount Sinabung suddenly erupted in 2010. Since then, it has repeatedly sent ash columns tens of thousands of feet into the sky, covering the entire horizon. Thick layers of ash fall onto rooftops and farmland. Daily life is regularly disrupted. Hot clouds of gas and volcanic rocks race down the mountainside during every eruption. Villages around the base of the volcano have been evacuated many times. Even so, people always return to farm. The volcanic soil is rich in minerals, making it ideal for growing potatoes, cabbage, and many other vegetables. Farming here depends entirely on evacuation warnings and knowing when it is safe to return to the fields. Migingo is nothing more than a rocky outcrop, covering about 2,000 square meters in the middle of Lake Victoria. Yet this tiny piece of land is home to around 400 to 500 people. The island is almost completely covered by tightly packed metal-roofed houses. The walkways are only wide enough for one person to squeeze through. Houses stand wall to wall. Fishing boats fill the shoreline. Most of the island's residents make their living by catching Nile perch, one of the most valuable fish species in Lake Victoria. Every day, dozens of boats leave the island at sunrise and return only when their holds are full of fish. Every shop, restaurant and service on the island exists to support the fishing industry. Migingo has long been at the center of a territorial dispute between Kenya and Uganda. For the fishermen here, every trip out on the water means facing not only rough waves, but also the risk of inspections, arrest, or losing their fishing gear if they accidentally cross into disputed waters. Dingboche sits at about 14,470 feet above sea level, making it one of the highest permanently inhabited villages in Nepal. The village is surrounded by barren rocky slopes and snow-covered peaks that remain white all year. Almost no large trees can survive at this altitude. Only short grass and stone walls remain. In Dingboche, oxygen levels are only about 60% of what they are at sea level. Even walking or carrying supplies becomes exhausting. Many visitors have to spend several days here, so their bodies can adjust before continuing to Everest Base Camp. Food, fuel, and supplies are all carried along mountain trails by yaks or human porters. With its cold climate and limited farmland, the people can grow only a few cold-resistant crops, such as potatoes and barley, while also raising yaks and providing services for climbing expeditions. Instead of building upward, the people of Matmata dig a large pit into the soft ground. From the central courtyard, rooms are carved horizontally into the surrounding walls. This is where people sleep, cook, and store food in the middle of the scorching desert heat. Being built underground helps reduce the effects of intense heat and dry winds. The thick layers of earth act as natural insulation, keeping the rooms cooler during the summer and warmer after sunset. The walls are often coated with white lime to reflect light and absorb less heat. Small doorways, narrow hallways, and rooms carved deep into the earth also help maintain a stable temperature. Some homes even have underground water storage and food storage areas. In the middle of this harsh landscape, people have found a way to survive without relying on any modern cooling systems. Sundarbans is the largest mangrove forest in the world. A maze of rivers and waterways winds between countless islands. The tides rise and fall every day, constantly changing the currents and the landscape. A path you use in the morning may be completely underwater just a few hours later. Hidden beneath the dense forest canopy is one of the world's most dangerous predators, the Bengal tiger. It can swim across rivers and appear without warning right beside your boat. Crocodiles, venomous snakes, and many other wild animals also lurk in the forest, waiting for every visitor. Even so, thousands of people still make a living around the forest by fishing and collecting wild honey. They paddle small wooden boats through narrow waterways, venturing deep into areas where tigers and crocodiles are hunting too. On top of that, the people of the Sundarbans regularly face tropical storms, storm surges, and rising sea levels. Every rainy season, powerful waves and salt water can flood homes, destroy protective embankments, and wipe out farmland. There are places where simply getting there is already a challenge. Dariyaboyi is one of them. Hidden deep inside the Atacama Desert, this small village lies nearly 137 miles from the county seat. To reach it, you have to cross endless stretches of sand, where almost no signs of human settlement remain. Its isolation turns every supply trip into a difficult journey. Food, fuel, and everyday necessities must travel long distances through scorching heat and blowing sand. If drifting sand buries the road or bad weather moves in, the village can be cut off from the outside world. In the middle of this barren land, the people build simple homes from wood, earth, and dried leaves. They make use of every little bit of water they can find to keep life going. Water is what determines whether Dariyaboyi survives. If the water supply decreases or the desert pushes farther into the oasis, the grasslands disappear, livestock run out of food, and the entire village faces the risk of being swallowed by the desert. Frying Pan Tower stands alone in the Atlantic Ocean like a steel island. The The structure sits about 32 miles off the coast of North Carolina, supported by steel legs rising above the water. In every direction, all you can see is the open ocean. No trees, no land, and nowhere to take shelter. No one lives here permanently, but technicians and visitors regularly travel to the tower for maintenance and research. Every trip depends on a boat or a helicopter. When rough seas or storms arrive, anyone on the tower has no choice but to wait until the weather clears. Strong winds, massive waves, and salty sea air constantly wear away at the steel structure. After every storm, the tower has to be inspected and repaired so it can keep standing against the power of the ocean. The moment you step onto the tower, you can feel complete isolation. During the day, endless blue water stretches in every direction. When night falls, every light disappears. All that's left is the sound of the wind, the crashing waves, and the endless darkness of the ocean. Every breath in Komic takes more effort than usual. At more than 15,000 feet above sea level, oxygen levels are only about 60% of what they are at sea level. Even the simplest activities quickly leave your body exhausted. Even so, hundreds of people have called this village home for generations. Winter covers the winding roads of the Himalayas with snow. Komic becomes a community cut off from the outside world. Bringing in food and everyday supplies becomes extremely difficult as mountain passes are blocked by snow and ice. To adapt, the people have only a few short summer months to grow barley and potatoes and raise yaks. They rush to store enough food before the snow returns for months at a time. If you had to live in Komic for a year, what would make you give up first? The freezing cold, the isolation, or the thin air? Stepping outside in Jacobabad during the summer feels like walking into a giant furnace. The city regularly records temperatures above 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That pushes close to the limit of heat and humidity the human body can survive. Just a few minutes under the blazing sun can leave you dehydrated and exhausted. Many workers begin their day at sunrise to avoid the hottest hours. By midday, the streets become nearly empty as everyone searches for shade or stays indoors to avoid heat stroke. To survive the extreme heat, people constantly drink water, pour water over their heads, cover themselves with loose clothing, and take frequent breaks throughout the day. When night falls, many families carry their beds outside or onto their rooftops to catch whatever cooler air they can find. In Jacobabad, the temperature decides working hours, sleep, and even people's health. The relentless heat has become an unavoidable part of everyday life. There are islands where people have no idea whether they'll still exist next year. Those are the Char Islands, strips of land built up by river sediment and quietly washed away again with each flood season. Today, it's a village. Just a few months later, it could already be part of the river. People grow rice and corn, raise livestock, and catch fish on the fertile land. But when the rainy season arrives, the rivers rise. Strong currents and severe erosion can sweep away homes and farmland in a very short time. That's why most houses are built from bamboo, wood, and corrugated metal so they can be taken apart or moved when necessary. Boats become the main way to get around. Moving to a new sandbar and starting over is something many families have had to do again and again. Every day is a race against a river that never stops changing. To buy a bottle of water at this store, you have to earn it by clinging to the side of a cliff. At Shiniuzhai, there's a tiny shop measuring only about 2 square meters, attached directly to a cliff nearly 400 feet above the ground. To buy water or a snack, visitors have to make their way along a protected climbing route stretching more than 2,600 feet. Every day, one employee carries supplies up the same steep route and stays there to serve climbers. The space inside is so small that there's only enough room for one person to stand. That bold idea has attracted thousands of people to Shiniuzhai. Not to buy anything, but to find out how far their courage can take them. . Mohammed El Ghizlane is the last village in Morocco before the Sahara Desert begins. Beyond this point, paved roads slowly disappear, giving way to endless sand dunes. Most of the homes are built from rammed earth. Their thick walls help block the daytime heat and hold in warmth after sunset. The village once thrived thanks to the Dra River and its date palm groves. But years of drought have left the river nearly dry. Water for irrigation has become increasingly scarce, while both the soil and water have grown more saline. Many areas are no longer suitable for farming. The weather has also become increasingly harsh. Summer temperatures often climb above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Sandstorms can appear without warning. Sand buries roads, farmland, and even entire neighborhoods. As desertification continues, the dunes keep expanding, and the oasis grows smaller every year. To keep life going, the people carefully conserve every drop of water. They continue caring for the remaining date palm groves while shifting part of their livelihood to serving travelers crossing the Sahara Desert. From above, Santa Cruz del Isolte looks like a cluster of houses floating in the Caribbean Sea. The entire island covers only about 1.2 hectares, roughly the size of 2 soccer fields. Yet hundreds of people live here in more than 100 tightly packed houses. There are no cars or motorcycles on the island. The alleyways are only wide enough for one person to pass through. Santa Cruz del Isolte has almost no open space left. People can't expand their homes outward, and there's no room for farming or raising animals. As families grow, the only option is to build upward, making the rooftops even more crowded. Life here depends entirely on the surrounding islands. There are no rivers, lakes, or underground freshwater sources. Fresh water has to be brought in by boat or collected from rain. Food, building materials, and many other daily necessities also have to be shipped from the mainland. Most residents make a living through fishing and tourism. Small boats are their only connection to the outside world. The Atacama Desert in northern Chile is one of the driest places on Earth. Some areas go for years, even decades, with almost no recorded rainfall. Across more than 40,000 square miles, white salt flats, red rock valleys, and snow-covered volcanoes create one of the driest landscapes on the planet. Life exists here only around oases and streams fed by melting snow from the Andes. Daily life, farming, and raising livestock all depend on this water. The people build homes from rammed earth with thick walls that keep the heat out during the day and hold warmth at night. They farm small plots of land and raise llamas and alpacas. Every drop of water is carefully conserved because even a short period of additional shortage can have an immediate impact on daily life. The Atacama is so extremely dry that NASA once chose it to test equipment for Mars missions. Choquequirao sits about 10,000 feet above sea level on the slopes of the Andes, overlooking the Apurimac Canyon. The ancient city is surrounded by cloud forest. Deep valleys and towering cliffs make it feel almost completely cut off from the outside world. Even today, there is no road leading to Choquequirao. The only way to reach it is by trekking about 18 to 20 miles. The journey takes nearly 2 days, with a long descent into the canyon, followed by a climb of thousands of feet back up. The high altitude and thin air make every step a challenge. This rugged landscape was once a survival challenge for the Inca. They built terraces along the mountainsides and carried water up from mountain streams. An entire stone city was built high in the mountains, where there was almost no natural flat ground. Building and maintaining a community in such a harsh landscape made Choquequirao one of the most challenging places to live in the Inca civilization. Patagonia is a land where the wind almost never stops blowing. Across the open plains, trees are permanently bent in one direction. Dust is often swept across the ground in long streaks. weather changes incredibly fast. Within just a few hours, sunshine can turn into rain, snow, or powerful wind gusts. Winds commonly reach 50 to 70 miles per hour. Walking, driving, and working outdoors all become difficult. People build low houses, reinforce their roofs, and plant windbreaks. Dry soil and low rainfall make farming difficult. So many areas depend mainly on sheep ranching. Ranches are often separated by dozens of miles. Buying food, making repairs, or getting medical care can take a long time. Daily life in Patagonia has to adapt to the wind and constantly changing weather. Skellig Michael is a rocky island about 7.5 miles off the coast of Ireland. Two steep peaks rise from the island like a pyramid. Powerful waves and strong winds surround it almost year-round. Landing on the island is only possible when the weather is favorable. Around the 6th century, Christian monks chose this island to build a secluded monastery. They lived in beehive-shaped stone huts, built entirely from stacked stone. The thick walls helped protect them from the cold winds and salty ocean air. Life on the island depended almost entirely on the sea. The monks collected rainwater for daily use, grew vegetables in small garden plots, fished, and harvested seabirds for food. To reach the monastery, they had to climb more than 600 stone steps, carved directly into the cliff. Maintaining life here for centuries made Skellig Michael one of the harshest and most isolated places to live in Europe. From deserts where rain never falls, to islands no bigger than a couple of soccer fields, to villages perched on mountaintops or surrounded by the open ocean, every place shows the limits that nature has set for humanity. But instead of walking away, many communities learned to adapt, turning places that seemed impossible to live in into homes for generations. If one day you had to choose one of the places you've just seen to live in, which one would it be? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can join us on more incredible journeys ahead.